just stop trying so hard. Spirit is showing me how I recently, not that I went back asleep, but I went back into an old way of being. And it's rooted in doing the most. Needing things to be just so. Wanting to figure things out. Ruminating. And it sucked. It was exhausting. And they're saying, are you ready now? Are you ready now to actually just go with the flow? To allow yourself a life of ease the way it was designed? Because Spirit wants to give you that, has always wanted to give you that. It's the humanness in us that isn't able to accept it. And Spirit saying, okay, can we just accept it now? Now that you've done that return, they're saying it wasn't actually a return because I never fully gave it up. But now that I see that clearly, the ways where it doesn't have to be so hard, that I make it harder than it has to be, and that Spirit loves and supports me and wants it to just unfold effortlessly. Are you ready to actually allow it to unfold effortlessly? Sometimes we have to learn lessons over and over again. Sometimes we think we learned the lesson and then we get leveled up in Spirit. It says, are you going to bring your old ways of being into this level up? Because it's not allowed. And so you'll go through these periods where it feels like things have stalled, where you're not making progress. And it's simply because you tried to come to a new level of existence and operate in the same energy in the old, outdated program. And in this game of consciousness, you're only going to be able to continue to evolve and grow as you embody, as you integrate the lessons in the consciousness that you acquired in the previous moments. They walk with you, but what you're projecting moment by moment becomes the experience. And I found myself in an elevated experience and then began projecting old energy. And it felt crappy, just like it did before. Your body, it stores by habit, it stores the trauma, it activates the way it used to be without you even consciously aware that it's happened until you're already in it sometimes. And you have to go through the process of letting your body release what it has stored and reprogramming it to show up in a different way. And you can't judge yourself when you have to go through this multiple times, especially when you are unwinding and reprogramming decades worth of programming. Stay in present moment awareness. Allow yourself to be relaxed and free. Stop putting yourself on this mission of solving, of seeking an answer. There is no answer that you need. Spirit delivers the answer to you when you need it. You've been shown this time and time again. Sometimes the idea of healing, of awakening, becomes an addiction. You get fed chemically by rummaging into your past, into the darkness, by looking ahead into the future and assigning yourself this role that is perceived to be better than whatever moment you're in right now. And you've done this cycle story enough to understand that it never has a different ending. The ending is always coming back home to self. Back to this present moment awareness, back to love, tapped back into Spirit, in which you're guided and protected. The amount of goodness that you get to experience is in direct proportion to how open you are, to how open your heart is. There's nothing further to figure out. We have to stop going back to the old way of being, thinking that it's going to work in the new life. It was what your old life was built on, but it cannot build your new life. The new elevated experience requires you to show up in the new elevated energy, in the new program. And the humanness will want to go back to the ways that it used to operate simply because it felt like they could control it and it's known. And just because something is perceived as controllable and known doesn't mean it benefits you in the greater good of all. Quite the opposite. Any sort of suffering and pain that you carry with you perpetuates, continues to project it, continues to exchange it with others. If you want a life of unity, of sovereignty, of love, it has to come through you showing up independent instead of codependent, showing up open instead of with expectation, showing up and seeing all that's given instead of noticing what isn't. It anchors through us by our energetic signature moment by moment. We get to participate within our life, and how we show up is how we experience it. Others may or may not experience us the same way. We have no control over that. You have no control over how your energy is received. You only have control over your intention behind it. You're not expected to be perfect. You're simply expected to be loving, to be happy to be on earth, to be free, meaning you set others free from your expectations. You set yourself free from expectations that you put upon yourself that were based in lack. Show up free. You show up loving. Not because you're going to get loved back, but because that's how you want to feel. And it's tempting to not show up loving when you're in vicinity to people that don't love you, that may want to take from you. And you have to remember, it's not your love. It's God's love. And that every time you turn down the love that you have in your heart, you are turning off the flow, the access to God's love that others can have through you. It's not about whether they're worthy of your love. It's about whether they are worthy of God's love. And you are worthy of God's love. Everyone else is worthy of God's love. Everyone else gets God's love and grace in the same way that you got it. And when you turn down your heart because the human part of you doesn't see them as lovable. You are forgetting that God loves them. And you are called to love in the same way that God loves. And you don't have to like. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. But you don't not love, because that will only harm you in the long run. There will come a time where all you will have left is the love that you left behind. All that's going to remain after you die is the love that you gave while you were here. That's it. Everything else will fade away. The only thing that remains is love. Did you show up in love? Whether someone else receives it as love is none of your business. Whether someone uses that love as self-serving, none of your business. It was given to you, and you have a responsibility to give it away. Because if you just keep it to yourself, you're limiting just how much could come in. You have an opportunity to be a vessel, a conduit for it to flow. So to show up as less than what you're capable of is denying God, denying Spirit's ability to work on the earthly plane. Can you show up and flood love onto your experience? Even on, and especially on, the individuals that are not easy for the human to love. And remember, it is not because they are flawed. It is simply because they're human. We chose to be here having the human experience, interacting with other humans. Can you show up in love